أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 50, Ayah 152. وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ إِذْ تَحُسُّونَهُمْ بِإِذْنِهِ. And Allah had certainly fulfilled His promise to you when you were killing the enemy by His permission. We learned that the Battle of Uhud that took place between the Muslims of Medina and the Mushrikeen of Mecca, initially it was a battle in which the Muslims were successful. And soon after, their victory was turned into defeat. Why? Because of their disobedience to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when the Muslims returned to Medina from Uhud, some of them were wondering, how come this happened to us? We're supposed to be believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised us victory. How come we suffered such a great loss? What happened? So over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ. What's the promise of Allah? The promise of help, the promise of victory. Allah proved His promise true to you, meaning Allah did give victory to you. When? At the beginning of the battle. Everything was fine. You were getting the help of Allah. Everything was in your favor. إِذْ تَحُسُّونَهُمْ بِإِذْنِهِ. When you were wiping them off with His permission. The word تَحُسُّونَ is from the root letters ha, sin, sin, from the word his. And his is used for sense. For instance, the sense of touch, or the sense of, smell, or seeing, or listening. There are different senses that a person has. And hassa is to hit someone. It is to strike someone on his senses. It is to strike someone on his senses. And remember that when a person is struck on his senses, then it could be a fatal blow as well. It could lead to death. It could lead to death. So the word hassa is used for killing someone by striking them on their quwwa hassa, on their sense. It's also said that hassa is to make someone dead, or to kill someone how? By making their senses dead. By making their senses dead. And in Arabic, hassa from his, it is to hit someone, to strike someone on his his. This is something that is common in the Arabic language. For example, the word batan. What does batan mean? Stomach. So, batantuhu means I hit him on his stomach. So, hasastuhu meaning I struck him on his his. Eventually, that strike, that blow was fatal. It could lead to death. And also it is said that the husuna gives the meaning of to make one's perceiving power dead. Meaning you killed them by finishing off their hiss. Hiss of what? Of seeing, of looking, of hearing, things like that. So is the husunahum when you were killing them. Them refers to who? The enemy. And how were you doing this? بِإِذْنِهِ, by His permission. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you. He made it possible for you. He gave you the tawfiq. By His help, by His amr, you were being victorious. And everything was fine in your favor. حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ, until you yourselves gave up. Until you lost heart. Until you started to show weakness. When you started to show weakness, then obviously you lost the help of Allah. And eventually your victory turned into defeat. When was this? The Prophet ﷺ had appointed a band of 50 archers on the top of the hill. And those 50 archers were commanded that you must not move, even if the people in the battlefield are snatched away by the birds. You're not moving from there until and unless you are allowed, until and unless you're told. And when they saw that the enemy was retreating, what did they do? They also left their posts. They thought, we have won already, so the battle is over. So they left their posts and they went on to gain some dunya. So this is what is being mentioned over here, that everything was fine until you yourselves gave up. Fashiltum is from the root letters fa, shin, lam. Fashala, which is to lose heart. It is to lose one's spirit. It is to lose one's vigor and courage. So everything was fine and you lost your courage. How did they lose their courage? How did they lose their determination? when they saw the booty. It was their vigor, it was their courage, it was their steadfastness that kept them on their posts. When they saw the dunya, fashiltum, you became weak. You lost your confidence. You lost your vigor. And then you left your posts and you went into the midst of the field in order to collect the war booty. حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ وَتَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and you disputed concerning the matter. تَنَازَعْتُمْ is to pull something, and تَنَازَعَ is to pull something from each other. What is it? It is to try to pull one thing from one another, from each other. And from this, the word tanazur is used for dispute. So, حَتَّى إِذَا تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, until you disputed in the matter. Which matter? Which affair? Which matter was this that they disputed in? Abdullah ibn Jubayr was their leader. He was the head of the 50 archers. Some of them said, let's go, the battle is over. Others said, no, we should not go because the Prophet ﷺ told us such and such, we're not allowed to leave. So, حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ, you lost your courage, you lost your vigor upon seeing the war booty, you left your spots, and then تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, you disputed with regards to the instruction that the Prophet ﷺ had given. وَعَصَيْتُمْ, and you disobeyed. You disobeyed who? The Prophet ﷺ. How? By abandoning your stations in search of the war booty. مِن بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ, after that He showed you what you love. After Allah showed you that which you love. أَرَاكُمْ, He showed you. Who showed you? Allah showed you. What did He show you? مَا تُحِبُّونَ, that which you love. What is it that you love? Victory as well as booty. You love it. You saw that you were victorious and you left your positions. You saw the war booty and you couldn't resist and you left your posts. You left your positions in order to obtain that booty. مِن بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ. With regards to this part of the ayah, some scholars have said that what this means is حَتَّى إِذَا تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ وَعَصَيْتُمْ وَفَشِلْتُمْ. Because in the ayah, إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ is mentioned first. Correct? But if you think of it, تَنَازَعْتُمْ came first, then عَصَيْتُمْ came, and then when the enemy attacked them, that is when they lost their courage completely. Correct? If you look at the sequence of events, what exactly happened? They started disputing, then they disobeyed the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ, and then when the enemy attacked them, instead of getting back together, what did they do? They lost their courage. And when they heard that the Prophet ﷺ had died, they lost their courage completely. So some scholars say that fashiltum actually comes after. And this is something that is common in the Arabic language, that sometimes the sequence of events is not mentioned in the exact way as the events actually happened. Sometimes they're not mentioned in the chronological order, but rather that which is most important is mentioned first. What was the main problem? Fashiltum. You lost your courage. You lost your courage. Everything was fine. You were boldly and fiercely fighting in the battle until you lost your confidence. You lost your determination. You lost your determination. And when you lost it, that is when the problems began for you. And that is when you lost the battle. That is when your victory turned into defeat. Minkum, among you, man yuridu dunya, is one who desires the world. Among you is one who loves the dunya, who wants the dunya. Yuridu from irada. And what is irada? The intention. It is the reason why a person does something. Why a person performs a particular action. So some of you went to battle, why? Desiring dunya. Which is why, when they saw the booty, they abandoned their stations in search of that dunya. وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِيدُ الْآخِرَةِ, and among you are those who desire the akhirah. Which is why, even though they saw the booty right in front of them, they didn't move. They didn't leave their posts. But rather, they obeyed the Prophet ﷺ. They held on to the instruction that was given to them until they were slain. ثُمَّ صَرَفَكُمْ عَنْهُمْ, then He turned away you from them. Meaning Allah turned you meaning believers, anhum from them. Who does them refer to? The mushrikeen. And the word sarafa is from sad, ra, fa. Sarafa is to turn away, and sarafa an is to prevent someone from something. It is to prevent someone from something. Do not let someone go forth. Do not let someone move forward and divert them. It is to divert someone. So for example, if a child is going towards the refrigerator and you want to stop them, you don't let them go. You turn them away by force. You divert them. You show them something else. You show them very nice keys. They got distracted. So sarafa'an is to turn someone away from their objective. Do not let them go where they're headed to. So He turned you away from them. What does it mean by this? That you, O believers, were being victorious over the mushrikeen. But He turned you away from them. Meaning, He did not let you be victorious over them. Why? As a consequence of your tanazur, of your isyan. When you disputed with one another, when you disobeyed the messenger, when you lost heart, when you lost your determination, when you yourselves were not determined, then what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also did not let you be successful. He turned you away from them, meaning away from being victorious over them. How? Through defeat. It is also said that what this means is that ثُمَّ صَرَفَكُمْ عَنْهُمْ, that He turned you away from them. That the mushrikeen, what happened then at this point? They were attacking the Muslims. Correct? The Muslims were under attack now, and they weren't ready for that attack. About 70 Muslims got killed at this point. About 66 Ansar and 4 Muhajirun. But what happened? Everyone did not get killed. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned the Muslims away. How? That they began ascending the mountain. They began escaping the battlefield. So ثُمَّ صَرَفَكُمْ عَنْهُمْ لِيَبْتَلِيَكُمْ, so that He tests you. Lam over here is of illah, ta'leel, reason. So He turned you away from them, meaning He did not let you be victorious over them. Why? So that He may test you. يَبْتَلِيَ from ibtila, ba lam waw. And ibtila is used for a test that is manifest. That is manifest. Meaning, people find out about it. It's public. It's open. For instance, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ, when the Lord of Ibrahim ﷺ tested him. All of his tests, they were quite visible. They're known to us. They're mentioned in the Quran. Many of them. So, لِيَبْتَلِيَكُمْ, so that He may test you. Why? So that the sincere one is made manifest from the one who is not sincere. The one who is sincere is made manifest from the one who is not sincere. Both of them are clearly distinguishable. Who is really sincere and who is not sincere? Who wants dunya and who wants akhirah? Because up until now, the Muslims and the hypocrites, the Muslims with very strong iman and the Muslims with weak iman, everyone was mixed up. Everyone was good. But when this happened at the Battle of Uhud, that is when it was known that there are some people who actually want dunya. We learned that Ibn Mas'ud radhiyallahu anhu, he said, I never thought that anyone of the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam desired the dunya until this ayah was revealed. I never thought that anyone of those people who were around the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam desired the dunya until this ayah was revealed. So, it was the beginning. It was only the 3rd year. It was the beginning. So people still had love for the dunya. And when this happened, لِيَبْتَلِيَكُمْ, so that He may test you. Why? So that the sincere one is made manifest from the one who is not sincere. So when a person is put in difficulty, his heart, his reality is exposed to him. And not just him, but it is also exposed to other people. And it's in a way a big blessing for the believer. That he realizes what his weaknesses are, what his weak points are, so that he can focus on them and he can improve himself. He can reform himself. لِيَبْتَلِيَكُمْ, so that He may test you, so that He may manifest you. وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. And certainly He has pardoned you. Afa, from afwun. And what does afwun mean? To wipe. So He has wiped off your mistake. He has forgiven you completely. Despite all of this, He will not punish you for your mistake. When we listen to these verses, when we learn that some of them, they disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ, we think that's such a big deal. And look at the consequences. The Muslims were being victorious and the victory turned into defeat because of the mistake of some people. How come they were not punished? Because it was still the beginning. And they were, after all, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And their sacrifices, their efforts, their sincerity was still there, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And Allah is one who shows fadl to the believers. Zu fadl is one who owns fadl, one who has a lot of fadl. And fadl is extra. So zu fadl for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what it means is that He shows favor to people. So He shows favor to who? عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. To the believers. How? That when He forgave them, when He pardoned them, when He did not punish them. And also, وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. How? That all of the believers were not killed. About 70 were killed, but everyone was not killed. So this was also a big favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped the Muslims, helped the believers at Uhud, just as He helped them at Badr. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised His help to the believers. So Allah did help the believers at Uhud as well. It wasn't that He didn't help them. No, He did. وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ. Allah fulfilled His promise to them. However, it was their own mistake, it was their own fault that turned the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala away. What does this show us? That sometimes we lose the help of Allah because of our own faults. And what are those faults? What are the 3 mistakes that are mentioned over here? فَشِلْتُمْ. Losing your own determination. Being shaky. Losing confidence. Should I continue this or should I not continue this? Up until you're determined, up until you have your azm, and you do tawakkul ala Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps you. But the moment you start thinking, maybe I shouldn't, it's getting too difficult, then with your negative thoughts, you lose your determination. You lose your confidence. You don't put in as much effort. For instance, if you're doing a simple task such as cleaning the house, washing the dishes, you don't have any determination. You don't have any resolve that let me do this quickly, finish this off and get to something else. I don't want to do this. How long will it take you? How long will it take you? Very long. And if the situation is such that you start panicking, or something seems so urgent and you feel that an action should be taken right away, and other people disagree, they're not thinking the way you're thinking, what happens? Instead of communicating clearly, we end up arguing and disputing with each other. And the thing is that disputing is not going to lead you to solve the problem. If you start fighting with each other, it's not going to solve the problem. It's only going to make the problem worse. When the Prophet ﷺ had appointed a leader, Abdullah ibn Jubayr was their leader, what should they have done? Obeyed. Listened to him. They should have followed him. So similarly, in every situation, in every circumstance, there's always some leader. And if there isn't, then there must be a leader. There must be someone who is in charge. And whatever they say, whatever final word they give, that is what we should do. Even if we disagree with them. Why? For our own betterment, for our own success. Because disputing, arguing, fighting with one another, it's not going to solve the problem. It's only going to make the problem worse. And what's the third mistake? Asaytum. Disobeying. Disobeying who? The leader, Abdullah ibn Jubayr, and more importantly, disobeying who? The Prophet ﷺ. What does this show us? What does this show us? That if we do not obey the Prophet, if we do not follow his sunnah, then we are going away from success. Then we are going away from success. As we know about I'm sure most of you have heard about that battle in which the Muslims were. And it wasn't conclusive, meaning nobody was winning. Neither they were winning nor the enemy was winning. And eventually, the Muslim army started thinking that which sunnah are we leaving out? Maybe it's because we're not following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that we're suffering from this. Huh? And they realized that they hadn't done miswak. Miswak. Basic sunnah. They realized that they hadn't done that. And they started doing miswak and they won very soon. What did we learn in that ayah? إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. As a result, يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهِ. Allah will love you. And when Allah will love you, He will send you His help. He will assist you. أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. So that you are shown rahmah, so that you are shown mercy. So this shows to us that if we want the help of Allah, if we want to be successful in what we're doing, we must be determined. Secondly, we must not fight with one another. We may have differences, but don't fight with one another. And thirdly, we must follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. These are the keys to success. These are the keys to gaining help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, without the help of Allah, we cannot do anything at all. Also, we learn from this ayah that upon receiving a blessing, what should we do? We should be grateful. Because all of this they did when? مِن بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ. After He showed you victory, after He showed you the booty, that is when you lost your determination. That is when you thought, oh, it's fine. We can do whatever we want now. That is when you started fighting with one another. That is when you disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. So upon receiving a blessing, upon receiving success, we should be grateful and not asaytum, not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because many times upon getting the dunya, what do? We disobey Allah. Many times upon receiving blessings, what do? We disobey Allah. Also we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it clear to the believers that there are still among you those who have love for the dunya. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting you through a test so that this love of dunya is exposed to you and you may do something about it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us in difficult situations so that we know our weak points, we know our weaknesses, not so that we're humiliated in front of other people, but so that we can reform ourselves. So each time a weakness is exposed to us, whether it is somebody else who comes and tells us, you have this weakness, you should try to improve it, instead of, taking it to heart and getting very upset, what should we do? Be grateful that we know what mistake we're making. Because if we don't know what mistake you're making, how can you correct yourself? It's like if someone cooks food and it's always very bland, and nobody tells her and just praises her, oh, your food is excellent, your food is excellent. Is she going to be able to improve her food? She won't be. It's out of your well-wishing. It's out of well-wishing for you that somebody is telling you, somebody is making clear to you, making known to you what mistakes you're making. Also we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave the companions. وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. And we must not forget this. Because many people get stuck on this. Look, the Sahaba, they disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. And because of this reason, some people go on to the extent of insulting the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. But we must remember that Allah forgave them, despite their mistake. Because رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. We learned that an Egyptian man, he came to Abdullah ibn Umar. And he said, "Oh Ibn Umar, I want to ask you about something. Please tell me about it. Do you know that Uthman, radiyallahu anhu," who was Uthman radiyallahu anhu? He was a third caliph and he was also the son-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Do you know that he fled away on the day of Uhud? At the battle of Uhud, he fled away. He was of those people who fled from the battle." Ibn Umar said, "Yes." The man said, "Do you know that Uthman was absent on the day of Badr and did not join it?" He wasn't there at the battle of Badr either, the first battle. Ibn Umar said, "Yes." The man said, "Do you know that he failed to attend the Ar-Ridwan pledge, the Bay'at Ridwan? You know that he failed to be present over there and he did not witness it? And which was this pledge? It was the one that was made at Hudaybiyah." Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu said, "Yes." The man said, "Allahu Akbar." Meaning, if a person has not participated in a major battle, and he fled away from another major battle, and he wasn't there at a very important pledge, then how come he's been made the caliph, or how come you revere him so much? How come you respect him so much? Ibn Umar said, let me explain to you all of these three things. As for his flight on the day of Uhud, I testify that Allah has excused him and forgiven him. And he said, وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. Allah has said, وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. So Allah has pardoned him. Allah has excused him. And as for his absence from the Battle of Badr, it was due to the fact that the daughter of Allah's Messenger was his wife, and she was sick. And Allah's Messenger said to him, you will receive the same reward and share of booty as any one of those who participated in the Battle of Badr if you stay with her. Why did he stay back? Because his wife was unwell. And who was his wife? The daughter of the Messenger of Allah. So he was told to stay back at home. And the Messenger told him that if you stay back, you will still get the same reward. As for his absence from a Ridwan pledge of allegiance, had there been any person in Mecca more respectable than Uthman, Allah's Messenger would have sent him instead of him. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he was the one who went to Mecca. And it was because of him that that pledge was made, when he was rumored dead. No doubt, Allah's Messenger had sent him, and the incident of a Ridwan pledge of allegiance happened after Uthman had gone to Mecca. Allah's Messenger held out his right hand saying, this is Uthman's hand. He stroked his other hand with it saying, this pledge of allegiance is on behalf of Uthman. Then Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu said to the man, bear these excuses in mind with you. So before objecting at the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we should remember, وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. Because there are many people amongst the Muslims who criticize the companions, insult the companions, humiliate them, disrespect them. And if there's any mistake that they learn of them, they make it such a big deal. They blow it out of proportion. But never forget, وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. Allah has forgiven the companions. Yes, they made mistakes, but they were also human beings. And the sacrifices that they made, they are much more compared to anyone else's sacrifices. As we learn, I mentioned to you the hadith earlier as well, that if one of you were to spend gold equivalent to the amount of Mount Uhud, it would be nothing compared to what the companions spent. Even if what the companions spent was very little. Why? Because the degree of sacrifice is very different. وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. Recitation.
One.
إِذْ تُصْعِدُونَ وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ فِي أُخْرَاكُمْ. Remember when you fled and climbed the mountain without looking aside at anyone while the Messenger was calling you from behind. The believers are being recalled, are being reminded about what they had done at the Battle of Uhud. Is, meaning uzkuru. Remember when this happened. When did this happen? When the mushrikeen, under the leadership of Khalid ibn Walid, they attacked the Muslims from the rear. Because the Prophet ﷺ had appointed the 50 archers at the mountain, which was towards the back of the Muslims. Why? So that the back is protected. It is shielded. But when those archers moved from there, what happened? The back was open. The rear was open. And so Khalid ibn Walid, he recruited all the fleeing mushrikeen, and then they regrouped themselves and they attacked the Muslims from behind. So is tus'iduna. When this happened, obviously there was a big chaos amongst the people, and then the Muslims had started climbing up the mountain in order to save themselves. So tus'iduna is from the root letter Sad, Ain, Dal, from the word su'ud. And su'ud is to climb up. It is to climb upwards. Where? To a high place. And sa'ada is used for climbing up quickly. What does it mean? To climb up quickly. And is'ad is used for climbing up from low ground to high ground. And sometimes it is also used for descending. But basically it gives the meaning of going quickly, ascending or descending quickly, climb up or climb down. And why is this word used for climbing down? Because there is, height. That, for example, you climb up a ladder or you go down a ladder. So over here, tus'iduna You all were ascending, you all were running, you all were going upwards. Where? Up to the Uhud. Secondly, it has been said that tus'iduna, it doesn't give the meaning of going up the Mount Uhud, climbing up the Mount Uhud, but what it means is that you are running far away, fleeing in the distance. What does it mean? That you are running far away, fleeing in the distance. So first of all, what does it mean? You were climbing up the mountain. Secondly, that you were running far away, fleeing in the distance. Now you might say, why the contradiction? It's not contradiction. It's double meaning. And that is exactly what happened. Some people started climbing up the mountain. Others ran away from the field. So if tus'iduna وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ, and you wouldn't turn your neck back to anyone. Talwuna is from lam waw ya, and we have done this word earlier as well. يَلْوُونَ أَلْسِنَتَهُمْ بِالْكِتَابِ. They twist their tongues when reading the book, when reciting the book. And lawa, lay, is to turn or to twist, to bend the tongue or the head. What does it mean? To turn, to twist, or to bend the tongue or the head. So talwuna over here means that you would not turn your neck, you would not turn your head back, you would not look behind you. Ala ahadin, upon anyone. Meaning if anyone was behind you, you wouldn't even look at them. What does this express? What does this show? That you were just running in order to save your life. No matter who came your way, no matter who you left behind, you didn't care. All you wanted was security and safety for yourselves. وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ, while the messenger was calling you. You wouldn't turn back and look at anyone, but the fact is that the messenger was calling you. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was calling you. Where? فِي أُخْرَاكُمْ, meaning in your behind. He was calling from behind you. Ukhra, from the root letters Hamza Khara, and the word ukhra is the feminine of akhir or akhar. It's the feminine of akhir or akhar. What does akhir mean? Last. And akhar, other. Over here it gives meaning of other, meaning behind. From other than you, from behind you, from your rear, he was calling you. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw that the mushrikeen had attacked and the Muslims were in chaos, he started calling out to the people, إِلَيَّ عِبَادَ اللَّهِ, O servants of Allah, come to me. Come to me, ilayya ibadallah. But despite the fact that the messenger was calling them, they were running away in order to save themselves. And when this happened, what does Allah say? فَأَثَابَكُمْ غَمًّا بِغَمٍّ. And then Allah repaid you, Allah recompensed you with gham upon gham. Sorrow upon sorrow. Loss upon loss. Why? Because the messenger was calling you and you wouldn't turn to him. You wouldn't respond to his call. Athaba is from the root letters thawaba. The word thawab is from the same root. The word thawab is used for reward generally, but it's also used for recompense. And a recompense could be punishment and it could also be reward. Right? So athaba, meaning he recompensed you, he gave you in exchange what? Ghammam bi ghammin. Gham is from the root letters ghain mim mim. And the word ghamma literally means to cover something. From the same root is the word ghamam. What is ghamam used for? Clouds. Why? Because they also cover the entire sky, and sometimes they cover up the sun as well, preventing the sunlight from reaching us. And just as on a rainy day, people become very sad, similarly, gham also makes a person sad. Gham is the pain and constriction in the heart. That a person feels constriction, he feels some pain, obviously intangible pain. I mean, he feels very hurt, he feels very sad. Why? Because of something that has happened. Because of something that has happened. So he recompensed you with gham upon gham. You notice this ba, bi ghammin? This ba has been understood in two ways. First of all, it has been said that ba gives the meaning of ma'a. What does ma'a mean? With. Or it gives the meaning of ba'd. What does ba'd mean? After. Or it gives the meaning of ala. What does ala mean? On top of. So ghammam bi ghammin, meaning gham with gham, multiplied gham, coupled with more gham. one on top of the other. What you suffered, and that caused you grief, what you suffered next was worse than what you suffered previously. So one grief on top of the other one. It wasn't just one thing that you suffered from. It wasn't just one thing that was causing you hurt and pain and a sense of loss. No, it was one thing on top of the other. One along with the other. Ma'a, ala, ba'd. One after the other. One thing after the other. And what was it that the Muslims suffered then? They suffered defeat. It wasn't just defeat. They lost many of their companions. One after the other. 66 companions from the Ansar and 4 from the Muhajirun. Ghamman bi ghammin. You know, if there's a loss of just one person or 10 people, that's a big loss. But if you find out this person has died, and then another person has died, and another person has been killed, that's gham along with gham. Gham after gham. Gham on top of gham. And it wasn't just the loss of the companions. They also heard that the Prophet ﷺ had died. That he had been killed. Similarly, they suffered many wounds. Those people who survived, they suffered many wounds. Similarly, when they ran away from the battlefield, that obviously caused them some gham. But when they heard that the Prophet ﷺ had died, that caused them more gham. So ghamman bi ghammin. Secondly, it has been said that this ba gives the meaning of because of. It's the ba of sabab. It gives the meaning of jaza. Athabakum ghamman bi gham. Why? Because of the gham that you caused to others. Athabakum ghamman. Why? Bi gham. He gave you gham. Why? Because of the gham that you caused to the other. Who did they cause gham to? The Prophet ﷺ. How? By disobeying him. He was calling them and they weren't responding. So because they caused great gham to the Prophet ﷺ, therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inflicted upon them gham as well. Ghamman bi ghammin. One gham on top of the other. One gham because of the gham. Why? لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا. So that you do not grieve. عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ. Over that which escaped you. Over that which you lost. لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا. لِكَيْ لَا is connected with, first of all, عَفَا. In the previous ayah, we learned وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. And certainly He has pardoned you. So first of all, it has been said that لِكَيْ لَا is connected with عَفَا. Why did He pardon you? Why did He forgive you? Despite the fact that you were at fault. Despite the fact that you made a big mistake. Why did He forgive you? Why did He pardon you? So that you do not have any grief left. So that you do not have any grief left. Because the thing is that no matter what grief a person has, if a person is content with the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with him, then no grief can make him sad. No grief can make him worried. Which is why we see that the prophets of Allah, the righteous people, no matter what they suffered, no matter what loss they suffered, once they knew that Allah was happy with them, they were content. They were fine. No matter what they suffered, no matter what they lost. For instance, Ayyub alayhi salam, the prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happened with him? He lost so much. He had so much wealth, he lost it. He had health, he lost his health. He had children, he had family, he lost his family. But still, he worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he used to feel that when I had it, I worshipped Allah. And when I don't have it, I still worship Allah. And this is why shaitan did not like that. So, a believer, when he is content with the fact that Allah is happy with him, then no gham can cause him any grief. No gham. He cannot suffer from any gham. So, afa ankum, why? So that you don't have that sense of loss. That yes, you lost so many of your companions. You suffered from loss in the battle. A battle that you were winning. Victory turned into defeat. But still, when you know that Allah pardoned you, why is He telling you that He has pardoned you? لِكَيْ لَا تَحْسَنُوا. So that you don't be sad anymore. Secondly, it has been said that لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا, this is connected with أَثَابَكُمْ. Where's athabakum? Athabakum ghamman bi ghammin. That He recompensed you with gham after gham. One gham on top of the other gham. Why? So that you don't have any huzn left. You see, for example, children, they have a small cut on their finger. Such a big deal to them. Or if somebody starts working in the kitchen and they get a cut or they burn their finger or they have to wash the dishes, they think it's such a big deal. Right? But when you get used to it, you burn your finger, then your hand, then your elbow, then your arm. And these things happen and you get used to them. Isn't it? And then small things are not a big deal for you anymore. When? When you have experienced many, many gham. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you gham over gham so that you don't have any huzn left. You get used to it. You become tough. Tough not in the sense of being very hard-hearted, but that you don't grieve over small, little, petty issues. That you don't grieve over petty issues. That you become tough. You become confident. You become brave. And a person who is not brave, what happens to him? He cannot face anything. He cannot face any challenge. He cannot face any difficulty. But when a person faces one thing after the other, then he develops the confidence. Just as when you gave your first test, how did you feel? How did you feel? Very worried, fearful. But then after some time you get used to it. So similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them gham over gham so that they would forget what they suffered previously. They don't have any huzn left. لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا. And tahzanu is from huzn. Huzn is used for such gham, such sorrow or such grief, such distress that a person feels because of a problem that has afflicted him. So لَا تَحْزَنُوا, so that you don't grieve. You don't feel any distress, you don't feel any sorrow, you don't feel any worry over the musibah that afflicts you, over the harm that you suffer. لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ, over that which has slipped you. Fatakum, fata is from the root letters fa wa ta, and faut is to slip away, to pass away. And from the same root, fauts in Urdu is also used for death. Why? Because a person has passed away. So you don't grieve over what has slipped you, over what you have lost, over what has escaped you. What did they lose? Booty, war booty. Now when they were standing on the mountain, on their positions, what was their concern? We want a share of the booty. But then when they went into the battlefield, while the mushrikeen were retreating, and then they were attacked again by the mushrikeen, and then so many companions died, and they heard of the death of the Prophet ﷺ, what happened then? Were they still concerned about the booty? No. And what they lost, it didn't matter to them anymore. لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ. For instance, if a person suffers from a big accident, a big car accident, and their car is completely finished, but the fact that they were saved, the fact that their children were fine, how do they feel about the car? Not that bad. Because alhamdulillah, they are fine. Alhamdulillah, their children are fine. Alhamdulillah, they were saved. So the loss of the car does not mean anything. Similarly, لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ, over what you've lost, meaning the booty that you've lost, the victory that you've lost. You don't grieve over that anymore. وَلَا مَا أَصَابَكُمْ, nor do you grieve over that which afflicted you. Meaning, nor do you grieve over the harm that you have suffered. What is the harm that they suffered? The loss of lives as well as defeat. وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ, and Allah is aware of everything that you do. What do we learn from this? What do we learn from this ayah, from the beginning? That you shouldn't let little things affect you so much that you lose your courage. That I didn't get 29.5 and I only got 29.25. It's only a matter of 0.25 marks. It's not a big deal. Be grateful for what you have. So don't let little things affect you so much that you lose your confidence. Similarly, we learn that we should be positive in every situation. We should be positive in every situation, even in the most difficult times. If you see the Sahaba, they suffer from gham after gham. One hardship after other hardship. One loss after other loss. But isn't there some benefit in that? Isn't there some benefit in that? لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ وَلَا مَا أَصَابَكُمْ. You become confident, you become brave, and you don't cry over little things. Over what you've lost, or over what has struck you, over what you've suffered. No, that you become brave. So in everything that happens to a believer, there is always some benefit. So a person should always remain positive. Sometimes you wonder, you suffer from one difficulty, then another difficulty, and things just get more and more tough, more and more difficult. So don't be negative at that time, rather be positive. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that show me what you want me to learn from this. Sometimes you want something to happen and it doesn't happen. And you're trying your best. You're trying one thing, you try another thing, you talk to one person, you talk to another person, still it doesn't work out. There must be some khair in it. Similarly, you're trying to avoid something, but you can't avoid it. There must be some khair in it. So in every situation, a person should remain positive. Also we learn that one is to learn something in a classroom, from a textbook, through a lecture. And another is to learn something through experience. We know that we should be patient. We know that we shouldn't grieve over little things. But when do you really learn this lesson? When you experience. When you experience. So the Sahaba, they were taught by the Prophet ﷺ, but they also went to the battle. They also suffered loss and defeat over there. Why? Because experience teaches you in a way that a lecture doesn't teach you, that a book doesn't teach you. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting you into a difficult situation, know that it's an experience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to go through. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to learn something. Also we learn that sometimes you have days in which you suffer from one thing on top of the other. What should you do? Don't lose heart. Don't lose courage. You leave the house in the morning, you couldn't have breakfast. Or you couldn't clear up the kitchen. Or you didn't have time to iron your hijab. Or you tried ironing your clothes and you burnt them. You go back home, you start cooking, and you burnt the food. So one thing after the other goes wrong. It happens with us. So at this time, what do people do? That's it. I can't do anything. They give up, they start crying, they break down. But in this situation, what should you do? Break down and start crying? No. Don't lose heart. Don't lose courage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to learn that He is exposing you to difficulty, ghamman bi ghammin. Why? لِكَيْ لَا تَحْسَنُوا. So that you don't give too much importance to little things. So what if you broke a glass? I mean, yes, you should be careful, but it's not the end of the world. There are much bigger things that people break. And how much does it cost anyway? Maybe $1, maybe a few cents, maybe half of $1, 50 cents, something very small. So is it really worth crying about? Is it really worth something that you should fight over? In these situations, when we're positive, when we stay in control, then we're not only helping ourselves, but we're also helping other people. We're also helping other people around us because they also gain courage when they see us. And this is tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bil sabr. That you encourage each other, yourself and also other people, to sabr. How? By the way that you react. ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Then He sent down upon you, مِن بَعْدِ الْغَمِّ أَمَنَةً. Then He sent down upon you security in the form of drowsiness. نُعَاسًا يَغْشَى طَائِفَةً مِنْكُمْ وَطَائِفَةٌ قَدْ أَهَمَّتْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ. Overcoming a faction of you, while another faction worried about themselves. ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Then He sent down upon you. Meaning, when you were suffering from gham after gham in the battle, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down upon you, min ba'dil gham, after the gham, amanatan. Amana from aman. What does aman mean? Peace, safety, security. And it's the opposite of khawf. What is khawf? Fear. So amana, a sense of security, being safe, being at peace. So He sent down amana upon you. What was that amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down upon the believers? It was in the form of nu'asan. The amana was nu'asan. Nu'asan is from the root letters Nun, Ain, Sin. And Nu'asan is the state of sleepiness. It is a state in which a person is very drowsy. Na'san is a person who is very sleepy. And because of that sleepiness, he's yawning. You know, sometimes you are so sleepy that you close your eyes and you open them, and you yawn and then you close your eyes. So this is a state of nu'as. It is also said that nu'as is used for such sleepiness in which one's senses, they don't remain as sharp anymore. So for instance, you're so sleepy that somebody's talking and you can't exactly hear them. Or somebody walks by and you have no idea that they walked by. Why? Because you're sleepy. You're actually awake, but you're so sleepy you don't realize. And sometimes it happens that somebody's talking to you and you're so sleepy that after some time they're like, it's okay, just leave them alone, let them sleep. Because halfway through you're responding to them and then you don't respond to them. So this is a state of nu'as, that when you're sleepy and you're awake and you're sleeping and you're awake, so it's like you're drifting away into sleep, but then you come back as well. Then you go back to sleep and then you wake up again. So it's a state of sleepiness, extreme sleepiness. So He sent down this nu'as upon you as an amana. Now you may wonder, they're in the midst of a battle and they're feeling sleepy? Isn't that very dangerous? But Allah calls it amana. You see, this was after the gham, after they had suffered one thing after the other, and they had climbed up the mountain, and in a way they were secure from the enemy. But obviously the enemy could climb up behind them and finish them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down this nu'as upon them, and it was in the valley of Uhud, where we learned that the Sahaba, they were so overcome by sleep, that Abu Talha, radiyallahu anhu, he said that he would lift up his sword, and it would fall down. The Sahaba, they would lift up their shields, and they would drop from their hands. Why? For two reasons. First of all, to alleviate the fear. When you're overcome by fear, when you're overcome by pain, can you calm down? No, you can't. You're so worried. Some people start shivering. Some people start panicking. They're looking here and there. Some people start crying. But if in that state, a person is overcome by sleepiness, can he scream and can he cry and can he wail and can he be panicky and make other people panicky around him? No, he cannot. Why? Because he's overcome by sleep. Somebody was once telling me that when they were in labor, when they were delivering their baby, they would sleep while they were delivering the baby. Because she was so exhausted that during the contractions she would sleep for half a minute. And then she would wake up. And then half a minute she would sleep. And because of that, the labor, although it was very long, but because she had been sleeping throughout, it was fine. And imagine if a person's like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. Then she would be screaming, she would be crying, she would be yelling. But the fact that she was overcome by sleep, it made the painful process much easier. And this is amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So similarly, the Sahaba, just imagine the fear, the panic that they would have been in. But because they were overcome by sleep, it relaxed them. They were relaxed. Naturally, they were relaxed. So it alleviated the fear that they were in, or they could have been in. And the second reason for this nu'as was so that they would become fresh afterwards. Because they had had a tough battle. They had just suffered loss. And in order to get themselves together, in order to go home, obviously they needed to be fresh in order to face the future difficulties, the future challenges. Because obviously traveling through the desert, even if it's 3 kilometers, is difficult. Knowing that your enemy could come from behind you. So they needed that energy. So when they snoozed for a few minutes, for some time, it made them fresh. So this is the reason why the nu'as was sent as an amana. And many things you can resist. But sleep is one thing that you cannot resist. You cannot. Like if there's food in front of you, you can avoid it. But if you're being overcome by sleep, you cannot avoid it. You're helpless in front of sleep. Which is why we know that a person who is sleeping, and because of his sleep he misses the salah, he is forgiven up until the time that he wakes up. As soon as he wakes up, he is supposed to pray. Why? Because sleep completely overcomes a person. This doesn't mean that you should relax and not set an alarm clock next time. It doesn't mean that. But despite all of your effort, if you're overcome by sleep and if you cannot wake up, it's something that you cannot resist. It's something natural. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down nu'asan as amanatan, and this nu'as, it wasn't overcoming everyone. Who was it overcoming? يَغْشَى طَائِفَةً مِّنْكُمْ. It was only overcoming a group among you. Which group? The believers. So their swords were falling from their hands, their shields were falling from their hands. وَطَائِفَةٌ, and a group, قَدْ أَهَمَّتْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ. And the other group, what happened to them? قَدْ أَهَمَّتْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ. Their anfus, their souls, they preoccupied them. They made them so worried. They distressed them. Why? Because they were not overcome by sleep. أَهَمَّتْهُمْ, from the root letters ha, mim, mim. We learned earlier this word as well. إِذْ هَمَّ الطَّائِفَتَانِ مِنْكُمْ. What is ham? Intend to do something. Hadithun nafs. And the word ham is also used for distress. It is also used for distress. So over here, أَهَمَّتْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ, meaning it concerned them, it preoccupied them, it made them worried, it affected them, it distressed them. What distressed them? أَنفُسُهُمْ, their souls. So their souls were making them so anxious. Meaning, they were so concerned about themselves, about their security, about their safety, that they could not relax. It was causing them hum. It was causing them worry. It was causing them grief. So their only wish was their own deliverance, was their own safety and security. And they weren't concerned about the companions. They weren't concerned about the Prophet ﷺ. They weren't concerned about the fact that the Muslims had suffered a defeat. No. All that they were concerned about was their own deliverance. And you see, because they weren't overcome by nu'as, amana, security, safety was not given to them. They were deprived of that feeling of safety, which the Sahaba were given. The Sahaba, the true believers, when they were overcome by nu'as, it relaxed them, despite whatever they had suffered. But the hypocrites, what happened with them? They were so concerned about themselves that in that panic and fear, they couldn't think of anything else except for their own security. And imagine if you're in such a situation that you're panicking, you're worried. What is a person going to do? What is a person going to do? He cannot help himself, but he's only going to increase in his anxiety. It's going to make the situation much worse for him. And in this situation, you can't even think straight. You can't even think straight. You can't relax. يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. They were thinking about Allah غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. Who was thinking about Allah غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ? The second ta'ifa. And what was his ta'ifa of? Who was his ta'ifa of? The hypocrites. So يَغْشَى طَائِفَةٌ, the first one was of the true believers, and the second one was of the hypocrites. And what were they doing? يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. They were thinking about Allah other than the haqq. What were they thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? For instance, if Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was really true, this would not have happened to us. Similarly, thinking that this is the end of Islam. Thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't help us. So they were thinking wrong thoughts about Allah, negative thoughts about Allah, bad thoughts about Allah. And generally, when a person is in this situation that he is overcome by fear, he's very anxious, then he starts thinking negative thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The thing is that they're in that position because of their own faults, their own mistake, their own lack of tawakkul. They have done something because of which Allah is not giving them amana. And then when they are in this situation, they end up losing their iman as well. The little iman they have, they lose that as well. They start questioning their faith. I wonder if God even exists. For instance, if a person is going through one difficulty after the other, the death of a family member, they lose their job, they suffer from an illness. Some people, what do they start doing in this situation? They start questioning their faith. They say, I wonder if Allah even exists. Why aren't my du'as accepted? How come Allah does not respond to my du'as? Is Allah even there? So يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. They began thinking about Allah wrong thoughts, bad thoughts, negative thoughts, incorrect thoughts. And these thoughts, Allah says, they are dhann al-jahiliyyah. They are the dhann of jahiliyyah. They are the thoughts of the days of ignorance. Which thoughts are the thoughts of the days of ignorance? Negative thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And especially jahiliyyah refers to before Islam. And it also refers to the Jahili Mushrikeen, the Jahili Arabs, who did not have Islam, and what did they think about the Prophet ﷺ? That soon his matter is going to come to an end. Soon his affair is going to end. So these hypocrites, they thought, okay, this is the end of Islam now. So this is how they thought about Islam and the Prophet ﷺ. يقولون, they were saying, هل لنا من الأمر من شيء? هل لنا من الأمر من شيء? Is there any amr? Meaning, do we have any right to say anything? Do we have any share of the amr? هل لنا. This hal is of inkar. It is of denial. And it is for the purpose of objection. Lana, for us. Meaning, is there any possibility of receiving any help from Allah? Min al-amri. Which amr is this? Amr refers to fath and nusra, the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, amr refers to the situation that they were made to come to the battle. So, hal lana min al-amri min shay refers to two things. First of all, that is there any possibility of receiving any help from Allah? Is there any possibility of receiving any help from Allah? And secondly, this implies hal lana min al-amri min shay, meaning, do we have any choice? Because they said at this time that we never wanted to come here. We were forced to come. This is unfair. We were forced to come here. It was against our will. It wasn't our suggestion. We wanted to fight from inside Medina. So our suggestion was not taken into account, was not considered at all. So then they started objecting that do we have any share in the matter at all? Do we have any share in the matter? Do we have any share in the help of Allah, in receiving the help of Allah, in getting the victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or in voicing our concerns? And many times this is what happens. When people suffer from failure, what do? They start blaming other people. You never listened to me. I told you so. I told you so. You never listened to me. You never pay me any attention. You never consider my suggestions. The fact is that when you have agreed to do something, then your suggestion, somebody else's suggestion, becomes one. So, even though you differed before the final decision, you wanted to stay inside Medina, but the fact that the matter was decided and you were all going to go outside of Medina, now no matter what has happened, has happened. Now you can't put the blame on somebody else because it was a united decision. The Prophet ﷺ consulted the companions. It was a unanimous decision. So you can't object now that you should have listened to me, you should have heard me. And you can't say that, do we have any share in the help of Allah? No, Allah did help you at the beginning. So, هَلْ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَمْرِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ? قُلْ, say, meaning, O Prophet ﷺ, say to them, إِنَّ الْأَمْرَ كُلَّهُ لِلَّهِ. Say that indeed the amr, all of it is for Allah. It belongs to Allah. Which amr? The matter of giving victory. The matter of giving help. The matter of giving defeat. So basically, it belongs to who? Who decides? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not the people. So just because somebody else differed with you, they had a different suggestion, they had a different idea, don't put the blame on them. This is Allah's decision. And your blaming them is not going to change anything. What is going to help you is your acceptance of the situation. يُخْفُونَ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. They hide in themselves مَا لَا يُبْدُونَ لَكَ. What they don't reveal to you. يُبْدُونَ from the root letters bad alwa. Budu. So the hypocrites, they conceal in their hearts what they don't reveal to you, what they don't expose to you. Meaning, they kept some feelings in their heart and they would not tell the Prophet ﷺ about them. What? For instance, their statement that if we had been at home, we would not have been killed. If all of us had stayed in Medina, then so many of us would not have been killed. It's like when something goes wrong, when a plan is not successful, then what do people do? Had you listened to me? Had we not done this? Everything would have been fine. For instance, if there's a car accident, people say, the mother says or the brother says, I told you not to go. Well, it's done now. You can't change it. Similarly, مَا لَا يُبْدُونَ لَكَ, it refers to they're concealing the shak in their hearts. They're concealing doubt about Islam, kufr of Islam in their heart. Their regret of coming along with the Muslims, of becoming Muslim. So they are concealing this in their heart and they don't expose it to you. يَقُولُونَ, they say, لَوْ كَانَ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٌ. if we only had a share in the matter, meaning in deciding the affair, meaning if we had the choice, مَا قُتِلْنَا هَا هُنَا, we would not have been killed over here. Ha huna, what does ha huna mean? Right here. Right here. So they say that if the matter was left to us, if we were given the power to decide, if we were given a choice, then we would not have been killed here. Meaning if you had taken our suggestion, if you had listened to us, then we would not have suffered this great loss. Allah says, قُلْ, say, لَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ, had you been in your own houses, had you been in your houses, لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَتْلُ إِلَى مَضَاجِعِهِمْ. Those people on whom qatl was written, meaning it was decreed for them, they would have come forth to their sleeping places. Meaning, the places where they're supposed to die. So staying at home does not prevent death. A person who is to die somewhere, at a particular time, he comes there. So don't say that if we had been at home, we would not have been killed. No. If death was decreed for someone, they are to die at that particular time. Kitaban mu'ajjala. It is a decree that is fixed in time. La baraza. Baraza is from the root letters barazai. And buruz is to come openly into view. It is to come into view. We read earlier in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَلَمَّا بَرَزُوا لِجَالُوتَ وَجُنُودِهِ. So, baraza is to come into view and to emerge, and it's also used for coming forth for the purpose of battle. So, لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ, meaning they would have come into view, they would have gone out, they would have emerged. Who? Those people upon whom qatl was decreed, meaning those people who were supposed to be killed. Those people who were to die at that time. Where would they have come? إِلَى مَضَاجِعِهِمْ. Madajir is the plural of madja, from the root letters da, jim, ain. Dad, jim, ain. Daja is to lie down, and it is to lie down on one side. It is to lie on one side, not on the back, not on the stomach, but what is it? On the side. And that is a proper manner of sleeping. That is a proper manner of lying down. It's the sunnah. And madja begins with mim. Madja is the place of daja. It is the place of lying down. So literally the word madja is used for a bed or a couch or a place of resting, a place of lying down. But then the word madja over here is used for, what is it used for? Place of death. Place of being killed. Place of death. Why? Because sleep is like death. And when you put a person to sleep, when a person sleeps in his bed, he stays there for some time, for the whole night. Similarly, when a person is put in his grave, he stays there until the Day of Judgment. So those people who were destined to be killed, they would have come forth to the battleground where they were to fall. وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. And so that Allah tests what is in your hearts. وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ. Lam over here is of illah, it is of reason. Meaning all of this happened. What happened? That there was a difference of opinion at the beginning. Where should we fight from? Inside Medina or should we go outside? Okay, it was decided, let's go outside. And when they went outside, everything was decided, this is where you should stand. But then, some people, they made a mistake. They left their spots. And then the Muslims, they had to escape. They had to save themselves. And then the hypocrites started saying, had you listened to us, this would not have happened. It's your fault. You should have listened to me. So all of this, Allah is saying, why did this happen? لِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. So that Allah tests what is in your sudur. What is in your sudur? What is in the sudur? What is in the sadr of a person? Qalb, the heart. So that Allah may test what is in your sudur, meaning so that Allah may test your heart. So that Allah may test your heart. How? Through your actions. That what do you have in your sadr? Is it the heart of Iman or is it the heart of nifaq? Is it the heart of sincerity or is it the heart of insincerity? What belief do you have in your heart? So basically, لِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. And remember, ibtila is to test, and it is the test that is manifest. So, to distinguish between the truthful and the false, between the true believers and the hypocrites. Because up until this point, everybody was mixed. But slowly and gradually, with each battle, with each difficulty, what happened? The believers were distinguished from the hypocrites. The believers were distinguished from the hypocrites. Just as, for example, everybody comes and joins the course, for instance. And everybody does the lesson every day. Everybody takes the tests. But with each test, what happens? It's clear as to who is studying and who is not studying. Or more than that, who is understanding and who is not understanding. Because sometimes people study, but they still cannot retain much. But from your tafseer assignment, at least we know if you're understanding or you're not understanding. So with each test, what happens? A person's reality is exposed. So وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. The sincere believers are distinguished from the hypocrites. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. And so that He may cleanse what is in your qulub. What is in the heart? What is in the heart? Iman or nifaq. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Yumahisa from mim hasa. Mahs, tamhis, it is to purify something, to refine something, to cleanse something. So that Allah may refine, so that He may purify what is in your hearts. Now, there were two reasons for putting the Muslims, for putting the believers in this test, or for putting the people of Medina in this test. First was لِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. That Allah may test what is in your sadr. And what is in the sadr? Heart. What kind of a heart does a person have? Is it the heart of Iman or is it the heart of Nifaq? So, in other words, the first reason was to distinguish between the believers and hypocrites. And the second reason was so that لِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. And over here, kum refers to the believers specifically. That the believers, their hearts are cleansed. Their hearts are purified. Further, because a person can have Iman, but along with Iman, he can have many weaknesses. Love of dunya, fear of battle, not giving that much importance to the Sunnah. So, these negative qualities can exist in a person's heart along with Iman. So, we learned earlier that minkum man yuridu dunya wa minkum man yuridu al-akhirah. Some of you desire the dunya and some of you desire the akhirah. So the sincere believers, they also had the love of dunya. Similarly, the companions who had been appointed at the mount, at the rear of the Muslim army, they weren't hypocrites. They were true believers, which is why Allah said, وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. Allah has pardoned you. Allah does not forgive the hypocrites. It refers to the true believers. But it shows that they still had weaknesses. So, the Muslims went through all of these difficulties, all of these trials at the Battle of Uhud. Why? So that their hearts would be further purified. لِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. So that He purifies your heart from love of this world. لِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Because if you compare the two statements, لِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. What is in the sudur? Heart. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. What is that? Heart. So you may wonder, it's the same thing that is being said. It's not the same thing. The first is distinguishing between the believers and the hypocrites. The second is cleansing, purifying the believers even further. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. And Allah is knowing of what is in the sudur. That is a feminine of dhu. And what does it mean? Possessor. Meaning whatever the sudur possess. Whatever occupies the hearts. Whatever occupies the chest of a person. Meaning whatever is in the heart of a person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about it. So He tries people, He tests people. Why? So that what is in their hearts is exposed to them. Their reality is exposed to them. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَلَّوْا مِنْكُمْ. Indeed, those of you who turn back. When? يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ. On the day the two armies met. Those people who turned away among you, when? On the day that the two armies met. Tawallaw from the root letters waw lam ya. And iltaqa from the root letters lam qaf ya. What does laqiya mean? To meet. Iltaqa he met. Who met? Al-Jam'an, the two groups. Jam'an is a dual of Jam'. It's the tasniyah. And what is Jam' used for? A gathering. And then it's used for a group of people. So the day when the two groups met, meaning the day of the battle of Uhud, those of you who turned away, those of you who turned away from what? Those of you who fled the battlefield. Or those of you who left their posts. And remember that tawallaw minkum, you over here refers to the believers. It doesn't refer to the hypocrites. Why? Because the hypocrites, they had already left. The people of Abdullah ibn Ubay, they had already left, 300 men. And some hypocrites who did remain with the Muslims, they're not meant over here. Why? Because at the end of the ayah, what does Allah say? وَلَقَدْ عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. Allah has pardoned them. Obviously the hypocrites, they weren't pardoned. So, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَلَّوْا مِنْكُمْ, who does it refer to? The sincere believers, the true believers. And among them was who? Among them was who? I mentioned to you that incident. Uthman radhiyallahu anhu. Right? And many other companions as well. It wasn't just him, but many other companions who were sincere believers, who were true believers. إِنَّمَا, indeed not but, إِسْتَزَلَّهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ. Shaitan caused them to slip. Istazalla, from the root letter Zai Lam Lam. Zalal. And what does Zalal mean? To slip. How? To slip unintentionally. For instance, if you're walking on the snow, you don't deliberately slip. Some people do. But people don't generally slip deliberately. So Zalal is to slip unintentionally. And then it is used for making a mistake, to commit an error. And istazalla, he caused to slip. He caused to slip. He made them slip. Who made them slip? Who made them make this mistake? What was the mistake they made? They left their posts or they fled from the battlefield. Who made them make this mistake? Ash-shaytan, the shaytan, with his waswasa. And many times we make mistakes. Why? When we realize a mistake, what do we say? Shaitan. It is the shaitan. Some people say, leave the poor shaitan alone and take the blame on yourself. No, shaitan does give waswasa. But just because shaitan gave waswasa to you doesn't mean that you are not blameworthy. You are blameworthy. But shaitan tried to make you slip. Because many times people try to put the blame on shaitan and try to prove themselves as innocent. No, you are not innocent. You did make a mistake. Yes, shaitan made you slip. However, you made the mistake. So, إِنَّمَا اسْتَزَلَّهُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ, shaitan caused them to slip. Why? بِبَعْضِ مَا كَسَبُوا. Because of some actions that they had earned. Because of what they have earned. What did they earn? What does it refer to? بِبَعْضِ مَا كَسَبُوا refers to some previous mistakes, some previous errors. And it also refers to بِبَعْضِ مَا كَسَبُوا, disobeying the Prophet ﷺ's command. That they left their posts. And when they left their posts, when they disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ, what happened? When the enemy came, they fled. Because we learned that, although when the enemy did attack again, there were some companions who were still with the Prophet ﷺ defending him. Weren't there? There were many of the companions who were along with the Prophet ﷺ defending him, saving him, fighting the enemy. So how come everybody didn't come up to the Prophet ﷺ to save him? Or how come everybody didn't fight the enemy? How come some people fled and some people stayed firm? And of those people who stayed firm was a woman, Ammara. So how come? What's the difference? Why is it that some people were given the tawfiq to remain steadfast and other people did not have that tawfiq? Why? Why is it that shaitan made them slip? بِبَعْضِ مَا كَسَبُوا, because of what they had earned. Because of some mistakes that they had made previously. Because they had disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ previously. What does this show us? That sometimes we make mistakes. Why? Because of our own sins. The tawfiq is taken away from us. Why? Because of our own sins. Because of what we have done in the past. This is why istighfar is so important. Seeking forgiveness. Because many times we don't even see our sins. We don't even realize we've committed a sin. We learned earlier about the Ribbiyun, that in the middle of the battle, what are they praying? Oh Allah, forgive us. Why? Because istighfar, what does it do? It wipes off the previous sins, and then you get the rahmah of Allah. Then you get the mercy of Allah. And we also learn from a hadith that a person who makes istighfar lazim upon himself, mandatory upon himself, then what happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help comes to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a way out for him from every problem, from every constriction, from every difficulty. But who? The one who makes istighfar mandatory upon himself. He always does istighfar. وَلَقَدْ عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. And Allah has certainly pardoned them. Who? The believers. Yes, they made a mistake. Yes, they did commit some mistakes. And because of that, shaitan did manage to make them slip. However, because they're human beings, because they are sincere believers, وَلَقَدْ عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ حَلِيمٌ. Indeed, Allah is forgiving, and He's also Halim. Who is Halim? One who does not punish immediately. Halim is from Hilm. And what is Hilm? Tolerance. That the other person makes a mistake, he does something wrong, but you don't punish immediately. You give them time. Sometimes we're just waiting for the other person to make a mistake so that we can shout at them. We can take revenge from them. But Hilm is to have some sabr, is to have some tolerance, to tolerate the wrong of other people. Give them some time. Inna Allaha ghafurun halim. Allah is forgiving, and He's also very forbearing. He doesn't hasten punishment against those people who commit errors, who commit mistakes. But He does give them time so that they can realize their mistakes and repent. Recitation? So what did you learn? That we should always seek forgiveness, because it's possible that the problems that we're suffering in our lives is because the sins that we have committed in the past. Is because the sins that we are committing now. It's possible. And a person who does istighfar, he's not going to suffer from anything. I mean, he's not going to suffer any harm by doing istighfar. Even if a person has not committed a sin, then he is showing humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by showing humility, what is he inviting? The rahmah of Allah. So if you want a way out of problems, if you want a way out of difficulties, if you're facing a difficulty in your life, a challenge in your life that you feel you cannot deal with, even if it's memorizing the lesson, even if it is coming to school every day, what should we increase in? Istighfar. We discuss our problems with people, but again, we don't discuss our problems with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We go try to take advice from one person and then another person, but we forget to do istighfar. And we think that we'll do istighfar, after salah, or when we're free. But the thing is that you can do istighfar anytime, wherever you are. In your heart, on your tongue, while you're cleaning, while you're walking, while you're packing. Anytime you can do istighfar. You don't have to sit down somewhere and then do istighfar. You can do it throughout the day. And the best thing is that you fix a time for doing istighfar. For instance, this one person, she was once saying that, she has fixed a particular dhikr for the time when she's washing dishes. That is a time when she says a particular dhikr. Why? Because automatically what's going to happen? Every time you're going to start that task, you're going to remember that dhikr. And then you're going to make sure that you do it every day. And the task of the work of washing dishes also becomes easier. What else have you learned? For our faults, for our mistakes, we blame other people. We blame shaitan. Yes, other people, they may be blameworthy. Shaitan is blameworthy. But it doesn't mean that we don't hold ourselves accountable. We also have to hold ourselves accountable. What? Shaitan is alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, in the sadr, in the heart of a person. Shaitan puts the waswasa. And you will only give him the key to your heart when you are not doing dhikr of Allah. Because as we know from the hadith that when a person remembers Allah, shaitan khanasa, he goes back. And then as soon as a person is negligent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then shaitan comes and whispers. But tell me, if you're watching TV for like 3 hours, for 2 hours, are you doing dhikr of Allah? Are you? No, you're not. And if you spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours watching TV every single day, and then you wonder, why can't I memorize my lesson? Well, you're spending 4 hours without the dhikr of Allah, making yourself vulnerable to the wasawis of shaitan. Are you not going to commit mistakes then? Are you not going to deprive yourself of much good then? Yes. Many times we say, when we're not successful in what we want, when we cannot obtain what we desire despite our effort, we say, okay, this is not decreed for me. It's that person's fault, it's that person's fault. Okay, it's not written for me, it's not decreed for me, so just forget about it. Move on. But why? Is the Quran not for everyone? Is the Quran not for you? If Allah can give the understanding of Quran to one person, can He not give it to you? Of course He can. But you need to prove yourself worthy of it. And for that you need to check your actions. You need to see how much time you're spending with the book of Allah and how much time you're spending with other things, making yourself vulnerable to the wasabis of shaitan. What else do we learn from these ayat? The hypocrites, after suffering the loss, what did they say? That if only we had a choice in the matter, in making the decision, we wouldn't have been here, we wouldn't have been killed, our companions wouldn't have suffered. And saying if opens up the door to shaitan. And those people for whom death is written somewhere, he will come there. What does this show to us? That death is definite. We cannot avoid it. So we must prepare for it. This life that Allah has given, time is too short. Don't waste it. And the best dhikr for seeking istighfar is Sayyidul Istighfar. Sayyid is the leader. You can find it in Iyaka Nasta'in. It is a book that is available in our bookstore as well. The Sayyidul Istighfar, obviously, it's at the top of the list.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.